Okay, guys, we listed some things that we thought we should change in today's society. Had quite a few very interesting thoughts from you all. So these were some of the things that different college students came up with. Gun ownership, age limits for a minor, speed limit taken away, lowering the drinking age, raising the minimum wage, and legalizing marijuana. Y'all had some thoughts about abortion. You had thoughts about student debt, family leave, body shaming. That was kind of interesting. So you guys have this wide variety of things that you thought should be changed in today's society. Let's look back and see what people thought about back during the Gilded Age. Okay, remember we talked about the Gilded Age starting out with corruption and ending with reform. So this is what we're looking at. And of course, the features are to make society more moral and just. That remember 1% of the population had 90% of the wealth, and so taxes and so forth to distribute income more equitably, and civil rights, suffrage, all these different things. So women were very active in this. Remember, married women were not in the workforce. It was single women, and a lot of middle class women were bored with just being married and taking care of the family, and they got involved in this movement. So remember, there are three types of reform: social, political, and economic, and sometimes these things can overlap. So let's talk about some of these things. Okay, one of the things, remember the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory. You've got lots of women in the workforce, and women are going to form the Ladies Garment Workers Union. And this is the first union that was pretty much strictly for women, and that was the membership grew as a result of the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory. Political reform we're going to talk about, the growth of the Communist Party, socialism, the International Workers of the World, which is a Marxist-based union, and a political reformer named La Follette. So the Communist Party, inspired by Karl Marx, who wrote a book called The Communist Manifesto. Communism. Everyone works according to their ability and receives according to their needs. So basically, people, there are no classes, there are no lower classes or higher classes, aristocracy, and capitalism is bad, evil capitalists trying to take advantage of the workers. So Karl Marx and the Communist Manifesto is going to inspire the revolution in Russia that we're going to talk about in 1917, and other countries to go to that communist. This is Karl Marx, and of course this is in his later days. Socialism is a little bit different. Okay, the socialism state basically owns the means of production. Okay, so there's many different kinds of socialism. As a matter of fact, Medicare is kind of a socialist idea. And so the socialism, again, capitalism is not really a good thing. So the government is going to control the capitalism. Socialism is one of those kind of difficult things sometimes to identify. So many different types, libertarian, there's a Democratic Socialist Party, and that's basically workers are going to own that means of production instead of having some fat cat up there on top. Eugene V. Debs, who we've talked about before, was the founder of the American Socialist Party. And there's Eugene getting a little bit older, looking a little bit more like Sator. Okay, some other progressives. Florence Kelley. Now, Florence Kelley is going to be at Hull House with Jane Addams, and she is going to campaign to eliminate child labor in the factories. She's also going to push for minimum wage and women's suffrage. She was a little gal. She was only like about 4'8", and she was a fireball. She is actually going to be responsible for writing some child labor laws. No children in factories if they are under 13. The industrial workers of the world. Now, this is a union backed by communist beliefs, and one of the phrases in his book, Workers of the World Unite, they were called the Wobblies because there was definitely, now this is a worldwide organization, there was definitely some violence involved, and there are several theories on why they were called Wobblies. Some say it's because of the violence, that somebody get hit in the head and get a little wobbly because of this union. Okay, this is just an illustration. You see the strong guy down here, and he is fighting the low wages and long hours and rotten conditions. One big union, and they wanted to unite these workers from around the world. So let's review this a little bit. You have these political reform movements, the Women's Union, Communist and Socialist Movement, and the International Workers of the World. You also have right here in the United States a guy named Fighting Bob La Follette. He is from Wisconsin, and he starts as a congressman, senator, governor, and he is fighting for civil rights, women's rights, and people's rights. He is going to be partly responsible for many important reforms, and this is vocabulary. Okay, so you might want to pause here and fill this in. But direct primaries, these are people voting directly for candidates instead of having the Senate choose them or the House choose them or the parties choose them. The people are choosing them. Initiatives, citizens can introduce new legislation. So say, for instance, you wanted to change the curfew law. You could get a petition, and if you get enough signatures and present it to the city council, take that initiative, they have to consider your proposal, and this can be done at all levels of government, city, state, and national. It's just the number of signatures that are required on these petitions. A referendum, citizens vote on legislation. So instead of the House and the Congress deciding on a law, they will put it on a ballot. So they did this in Colorado, for instance, when they legalized marijuana. And the citizens decided whether they wanted it or didn't want it. So the citizens vote on those laws. Recall. Sometimes we make a mistake and we vote somebody in who we discover is a scoundrel. Well, again, you can get a petition, and you can petition for a recall election. And that basically, that happened actually in the state of California. A guy named Schwarzenegger is going to end up winning that recall election. So again, it can be done at the city, state, or national level. And then he's going to push for the Australian ballot, which is basically a secret ballot. You go in the booth and nobody can see who you're voting for.